It's the time of the day that the lunch is, everybody feels is lunching. So we'll try to concentrate and be very fast and go into the main issues of the panel. My name is Guy Gissin. For the last 30 years, unbelievable, I run a private legal practice in Tel Aviv in the fields of capital markets, debt and equity, M&As and litigation, insolvency. I see the capital markets from both sides. So I think I've got a special glance on what we are doing here as well. Furthermore, I serve as a chairman of Harpoon Capital Consultant Company, which is a new venture that we established together with CPA Aviva Ben Moshe, with 30 years of experience at the Israeli Security Authority, and we escrow companies and deals and funds in many ways. Anyway, this panel is going to concentrate on the COVID-19 aspects, and I'd like to honor our very interesting people here that will give us their glance on it. Dan Katarivas is presently holds the position of Director General, Foreign Trade and International Relationships at the Manufacturers Associations of Israel, and is in charge of international relations at the Federation of the Israeli Economic Organizations. Anyway, he's got a very long experience at the government sectors in Israel. And I would like to start with you, Dan. Can you address the pandemic influence on the biomed industries worldwide, in a way? And we also, you know, that Pfizer, Moderna, etc.
Anyway, okay. No, I first of all, thank you.
Leave the biomed aside.
Okay.
Let's talk about technology.
Okay. Actually,
what happened with the technology during the last pandemic?
No, I think that what we are seeing, first of all, I'm very happy to be here and to participate in this panel. I think that definitely the pandemic has made tremendous changes. The fact that we are sitting here around in a panel where half of the, or more than half of the audience is in Zoom, something that was actually unbelievable a few years ago, or 1.5 years ago, is already something very important. The technology that has helped us actually to survive during the COVID for most of the businesses, especially in Israel, when actually the high-tech sector has been a sector that actually got a boost by the COVID. When we look, for instance, at the figures of the export of Israel, this year we are actually at a record number of export. We are getting over $120 billion of export, where the high-tech has actually increased by many percentage. Okay, so the trade or the export of goods has gone down, and the export of services, especially of technology, has gone up. So in a way, we shouldn't shout it too much, but the COVID did good to some of the Israeli technologies and to the Israeli export, because the fact that so many things were online, so many things have to be transformed online, so many things have to be protected because they are online, i.e. the cyber industry definitely made a big jump, because all the companies that are now working from distance, and you have people that have to work from home, and you have people that have to protect their data. I mean, the COVID actually enhanced a transition that was already starting, but actually, I would say, accelerate the transition and made technology much more important. And especially in that respect, Israel was already at the forefront of some of those subjects, cyber, for instance, and in a way, a lot of Israeli companies did benefit from that. Now, it's not that I am for another pandemic, okay, but at least if Israel has been, I would say, characterized by the fact of transforming obstacles into advantages, okay, I think that in the case of the COVID, we actually transform the obstacle or this crisis became a challenge, an opportunity for a lot of technological companies, okay, and I think that a lot of things that have been introduced during the COVID, we're going to see them continuing. Okay, we are now talking here about, IPOs, etc. The fact that you can actually do an IPO without going around and meet your investors, but do everything by Zoom and do it from distance, and it has been done. So this is changing the whole world of IPOs also. So there are many areas in which the COVID has influenced the structure of the economies. And Israel, because it's a small economy relatively, but very agile and very flexible, has been able to adapt itself probably in a proper manner to the changing situation.
Great. I'd like to approach Dr. Yael Benvenishti. Yael is CEO of Mediterranean Towers Ventures, a corporate venture capital that invests in early stage technology companies developing disruptive solutions for wellness and for active and healthy aging population. Oh, yes. It's good. The main thing, maybe it's Yael takes she's the chairman of Aging 2 as well, an international organization that deals with writing policies, policy papers on and promoting technologies that will enable substantial society with an emphasis of aging well. This is something, I think that the world is changing as well, because ESG is coming into, and you need to address it as well. So we would love to hear, how do you think working from home due to the COVID-19 pandemic influenced the use of technology, and especially for the fields of wellness and health and for the elders?
Okay, great to be with you. So this is right. Working from home didn't just affect the employment space. It is not just about having a good, stable, and secure connections to the employer servers, or having the ability to remotely educate and guide your staff. It is also about having the opportunity or the ability to keep and increase the wellness of your employees. The mental wellness and the physical wellness is to have the ability to keep and increase their loyalty to the company and their productivity. So we saw in the past 2 years that a lot of companies, there was a blossom of companies that deliver services into one's home. Some of them were wellness companies like Peloton that developed a system that promotes physical activity, or Telespace, Talkspace, that delivers some support, some mental support. And there are companies that are dealing with nutrition, and companies that are dealing with how to control your chronic diseases and so on. So in my opinion, the next stage in the near future, we will see those wellness services doing contracts with employers and with insurers. So they will increase the wellness of the employees and will increase their loyalty to the system, to the company, and their productivity. And it's very important. Now, I would like to emphasize 3 more issues, and I will summarize. The first issue is that there is a strong connection between wellness and environment. Because if we are promoting health, if we want someone to go outside for walking, then it cannot be a pollution outside. If we want somebody to monitor his nutrition, we should supply him good and healthy food. So there is a strong connection between wellness and environment. The second issue is about the connection of wellness companies and advanced technologies like AI or analyzing data, because we are monitoring a lot of people. And we want to know to whom, when, and what intervention to give them. And of course, we are dealing with a lot of personal data, so we need to secure this data. And the last issue is that when we are dealing with new methods of employment and wellness, we are creating a very healthy and very active aging population. This is a whole new opportunity. And we know that the world is getting older. This is a fact. And we need to think, we as a society need to think about new opportunities and new system, how to keep this new and big population still active, healthy, because if not, it will cost us, again, us as a society, a lot of money.
Do you find a lot of new startups in Israel or worldwide that are looking to solve those solutions? Or it's something that works, just people leave it and leave it to the cyber era or whatever?
No, I saw hundreds of companies, only Israeli companies in the last 3 years, hundreds, really. It's a blossom, it's a huge opportunity. And I think this is the next big area. We'll see this wellness and aging companies doing the next hype.
Okay, so we're moving to the other part. Mr. Rami Efrati, my dear friend. Brigadier Rami Efrati, managing partner at MSF Partners Innovation, a boutique consulting Swiss company focused on OT and IoT. And Rami is one of the founding members of the Israel National Cyber Bureau, Prime Minister's office, and former head of civilian division of the civilian division. He is a businessman dealing with cyber for many years and has an office in Dubai as well, to our friends from the Emirates. And Rami, which kind of cyber cooperation do you identify during Corona times and later between United Arab Emirates and Israel? Let's start with this. I think this is what's most interesting our friends from the Emirates.
Thank you, Guy. First of all, I want to congratulate you, Mr. Salomon, for having such an amazing production. It's great to have so many people here together with us. Some of them, by the way, I met in the United Arab Emirates, so it is good to see you all again here. We heard about the corona pandemic. Some people are saying that we have also a cyber pandemic, but I'm looking at the best side. Meaning we're all working from home, so we became targets, etc., etc. I will speak more about it if we'll have time. But also at the same time, the other guys, the hackers, were not sitting, I mean, they were sitting at home as well and trying to do their IPOs/exits while working from home, and they were very successful. Luckily, many other Israeli companies and all over the world companies were much more successful. That brings me to the United Arab Emirates. How many of you have been to the United Arab Emirates already? That's great. I'll tell you what I found in the Arab Emirates. I found very talented people. When I speak about cyber, I met people from companies like DIWA, which is the electric company, from DESK, which is the national cybersecurity, from ADNOC, which is dealing with petroleum. I found people that are talking the language exactly like the most successful and well-known cyber people are talking. And this is great. We can do business with people who understand what is the threat. The second one, which I was very proud, and I spoke about it in the Emirates, I found that there are many ladies working in cybersecurity. And this was amazing to see them all, because this is something we try as well. So whenever I'm coming to the Emirates, I try to find out how can we do business based on cyber. And I believe that we have a vast opportunities. Why? Because most important one is education. And there are many companies in Israel who are dealing with cyber education. Cyber education is in the academy. Cyber education is in simulators. I saw here one company which is doing simulators for cyber. I found out that we can have partners for the Emirates. As much as I understand, we signed an agreement with them to go to the moon as well, or to other places in space, so it is good. So to those of you who are looking to find out how we can do business with the Emirates, I think that we might find the right way how to create mutual funds, mutual investment between Israelis and United Arab Emirates people, build it together, work together, and that will create more business, which I will speak about it later. Thank you.
Thanks, Rami. Orly Gruper. Orly Gruper defines herself as a mobility nerd with 16 years of experience in the field. She was the first female entrepreneur in the smart mobility community, founding an electric motorcycle company, represented in the Israeli transport sector in the European Commission, and then led the EcoMotion community as the executive director for the past 4.5 years, where she remains on the advisory board. Now Orly is an investor in the field of as a VP strategy of mobility capital, among many other things such as founding and leading women in mobility. So it's women and mobility together, and that's the issue you deal with. I would like to address you and said, listen, the motorcycles and mobility have a huge effect on the environment and pollution and everything. Can you please elaborate on the effects of new energy developments on the industries you are involved with and on ESG investments at a whole?
Yeah, I think the biggest word now is impact investments. We're seeing more impact funds happening, growing, a lot of money going towards that. And if we break that down 1 second, impact is answering many different issues. I think we've done a great job at ruining our world for the past 100 years. We needed to do so in order to develop, we can say that, and we created amazing industries, amazing buildings, amazing planes and trains, and all these things that are polluting and ruining. We can debate on whether COVID is natural or human-based, but the world is crying, right? We see fires in water, we see floods, we see all of these things, and basically what we're going to see in the investment world in these years is a lot of money going into, I can't say repairing, but maybe mitigating, maybe trying to reduce our carbon footprint. Energy was this sector that no one wanted to invest in the past years. And all of a sudden, the digitalization in mobility created this big need, right? Everything now needs to be energized. And this energy also cannot be created in a polluting way like we did until today. So we're going to see energy moving from chemistry to chips, to things that are non-consuming, not very high energy, and to see how we can empower and power all that we need, from our phones to watches to everything, to our clothes, our shoes that are going to be connected with Nike, and then, you know, impact is becoming everything. It's becoming agriculture. We talked about food. We've done a great job at polluting our food, polluting our land. We're talking all these research on how to make ourselves better health because of the food we've been consuming, because of the air that we're breathing. So the biggest word I feel is going to be impact investments in the next years. For me, mobility, because I'm a mobility nerd, is a big part of it, and I feel like it's the biggest digitalization that is going through now, and really reducing ourselves from owning a vehicle to using it as a service. And in the end, this is basically going to be our car, right? Our way to move around. So these are very exciting days, and I'm really happy to hear this new message, new vision of the world, ESG and impact and all these buzzwords, because it's time.
But what's going to be? Do we have 10 years, 20 years to stop something, or we're going to go into
Again, I feel
pollution crazy?
I feel like we cannot stop or repair. I feel like we can mitigate. And that's already a good start, because Earth can help heal itself as well, but we need to help it. Right now, we're just imbalanced.
Menashe, we're going now to the capital markets, to the side of the money.
But first, just one remark. I have a PV system on my rooftop, and I got my Tesla a month ago. So when
but remember, you know, for the electricity for the Tesla,
Exactly.
they use coal.
But I wanted to emphasize one thing. Now, only 1 month after I got it, when I go now nearby a gas station, it looks like the past. So you get used to good things very quickly.
Great. So Menashe will be the start of a discussion here about the investment side, okay? Because up until now we're talking about the company side of investment. Now let's talk about the capital markets. Menashe is a co-founder of Optimum Capital. He's active in investment banking services executing financial deals and M&A with all major institutional players in Israel and abroad. He formerly acted as CEO and chairman of leading underwriting companies in Israel, and maybe he doesn't remember, but he was part of the Israeli Security Authority many years ago, and we worked towards him many years. Anyway, Menashe, it appears that money flows into the capital markets and materially affecting the prices. Would it be fair to say that there is a magnificent, maybe dangerous gap between the prices that the capital markets give and the real values of corporations in the world economy?
I think I would divide it to two different parts. Let's talk about the debt and then the equity part. So what we saw in the beginning of the crisis was lots of liquidity plans led by the Fed into the markets and then later on all over the world, which made a very huge mismatch between the risk prices that were reflected in the markets and the uncertainty in the world. So if we take, as an example, the TEL bond index, one of the TEL bond indexes here in Tel Aviv, there was a 2% yield, annually yield before the crisis, going up 4 times to 8% at the peak. If someone remembers that, some of us remember that, some of us remember that at night and didn't sleep as well. And only after 2 months, prices went down to 3 or 3.5%. And then look at the CEOs or CFOs or the board of directors still in the fear of the pandemic and what it is about to do to their business. And then they look at the capital markets and see prices that they do not understand. So what we saw is a huge movement from companies coming very quickly to take as much as they need, and I would say in some cases as much as they can, to fill up their cash balance. And in terms of bonds and debt, I think now the markets got to some kind of the regular numbers of raising capital, and it all calmed down. In terms of equity, yeah.
Cutting, you still have continue. I just want to say that maybe it looks like we have less people than what we had in the morning, but we still have over 150 people on the site because most of them are still online. So just...
We're talking to them, it's okay.
Yeah, you're talking to 150 plus people at the same time. Just, I want you to keep this in mind. Thank you.
All right.
Please.
So hello to all hybrid persons and salam alaikum. So in terms of equity numbers, it's blasting. I talked to one of my colleagues, which is a chief executive investment officer, sorry, in one of the major institutional firms here in Israel. And he said to me, in the past, we were afraid and we didn't invest where the high risk was. Now, we are still afraid, but we are all in. So I think this is what you can feel all in all places and all players. Everybody feels that markets are a bit high right now with the numbers, but on the other hand, you can hear lots of analysts explaining why technology is here to stay and why numbers can still go up. So
analysts with position, in the position or out of the position?
That's a good question. Depends who you ask. And you can really feel a lot of companies coming here to Israel to start an IPO. I think more than 90 companies, new companies, were listed here in Tel Aviv. From the beginning of 2020, 2/3 of them are in growth companies and high-tech companies. And it looks like it still continues to grow. There has been an ecosystem being built here in terms of the growth companies, which we didn't have before. Analysts investment officers specializes in growth companies. The institutionals taking more and more bites in tech companies, and all this ecosystem, of course, the stock exchange, which are very supportive with all these companies. So I think when some companies will not succeed like happened in the past, I think at this time, because of the ecosystem that has been built here in Israel, it is here to stay, even though. So looking to the future, I think it is very interesting for tech companies to come and to try raise capital here.
On the same merits then as from the manufacturers association. So, you know, it's really, as you see it, Israel is, the growth of Israel is done by manufacturers and mainly by tech and growth companies. Now, there was a discussion here before, and David asked Viv and asked him, if I take you to NASDAQ, what would you say? Why do you come to Tel Aviv Stock Exchange? And at the end of the day, you know, we are hosted here by Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, and we're looking for this. And what is your remarks? Does Israeli tech companies should go directly to NASDAQ or stay here with us?
Well, first of all, we are a free country, right? So people do whatever they want, okay? People do whatever...
Not everybody.
Not everybody, but they do what is good for them, okay? Now, I know there is a discussion in Israel whether we are selling ourselves too low, and a lot of companies, what they are looking for is an exit and then and take the money and run. I think that, first of all, the past teach us that actually in Israel, what is very interesting is even those people that do exit and they don't take the money and run, they reinvest it in Israel. So this is a phenomena quite interesting. So all those young people, and again, you are old enough to remember the ICQ, what I said, role model that we had, Mirabilis, okay? They were 21 years old and they made $450 million. They didn't take the money and go to Bermuda. They are now serial investors into new startups. And we see that not only with ICQ. Sorry?
ICQ died
I know,
2 years
they
later.
died. Of course they died. But the phenomena, the role model, I mean, that's what counts, okay? And the fact that the question is whether we should probably have more patience to keep more company here for longer time before they go out, okay? Now, don't forget, a lot of those companies, their market is not Israel. Israel is a small market. We are just a platform. We are an R&D center for the world, okay? But usually companies do probably, I would say, list themselves near to their markets, okay? So it's logical that Israeli companies, that their market is not here, but they have the technology, will be listed somewhere else, maybe to the east, to the west, it depends. Now, we also are seeing a new phenomenon in Israel, is that we have more and more Israeli companies that are growing here. The unicorns, we know that we have more and more. So we have matured, in a sense, from having companies that were selling for millions of dollars to companies that were selling for tens of millions, and now we have companies of $1 billion which are staying here. So there is a maturity in the behavior of both the companies, the investment, the world that is looking around. So it's not a matter of whether they should stay here or they should go there. The matter is how they can be successful, how they can contribute, obviously, to the Israeli economy, because that's what interests me, that they could pay taxes here, okay? Because in a way, we need those taxes to finance infrastructure, education, health, etc., okay? So, yes, I want them to grow here, and I want them to pay taxes here, that the Israeli will benefit, because at the end of the day, they are the result of the education system here, the result of the entrepreneurial structure, entrepreneurial culture that is here. So we should benefit from that, and we want to benefit more than the others, okay? But again, every sector is a bit different. There is a difference between if you have technology or if you have R&D in the medical field or in the cyber field or in the traditional industry. It all depends. So there is no one answer to that. Again, we should look at what is good for the people themselves, the businessmen, because at the end of the day, we want them to make money, and we want them to continue to make money and to reinvest money. We have to look what's good for the Israeli economy, and it looks not so bad. I mean, the 2020 was a record year in terms of foreign investment. 2021 looks even better, so we're optimistic.
Yael, if you take, on the same issues, but let's take the ESG and the impact investments that usually, up until now at least, it was not public, it was not by capital markets did not address it yet, but there is some kind of trend to take it over. Do you think, can you discuss these trends and the possibility really to go into other stuff, into impact and to ESG, and take the capital markets, the public capital markets, to support it in the future?
Well, I'm a great believer in services that are based on technology. And I think impact investments is the connection between the population and technologies. And I think that when companies will have a lot of customers, and they will have a lot of customers if they will base a service on technology, then the institutional investors will pay attention. Institutional investors will pay attention to impact investments because they are looking for a huge market, and the only proof that you will have a huge market is that you will have customers. And the only way that you will have customers is that if you provide a service that everybody needs, and that service will be based on technology.
Rami, I think we're out of time in a minute, so Rami, I think it's the last question. Cyber bubble? Is there a cyber bubble right now? Are we in this position, that all this, every cyber company that you're involved with, many of those, is running like crazy? I just showed you there's another cybersecurity insurtech company that just was right now raised funds according to $1.2 billion without real sales. Are we in a bubble?
The good message is that we are becoming digital, and also at the same time it's the bad message because the hackers are doing a lot of business in order to attack it. So I'm not going to say whether it's a bubble or not. I found out that those people who invested in the right companies did really a good job. And those guys who are dealing with cybersecurity today, these are the guys and the next generation who are coming from the military, from the academia, etc. They are the guys who are going to secure our life in the safe city, in
the car.
Connected cars, in therapeutics, in operation, in every part that we can just even not thinking today, because everything should be secured. And we are looking about data science. We are speaking about new technologies like quantum, like AI. These are not only words. These are words that behind them there is a big business, and this business has to be secured. So I believe that the cyber market is going to grow more and more. It's not going to stop, unfortunately, forever. Also, the hackers will try to find their ways in order to do it. But as much as we are going to find out new solutions, as we are going to come out with new technologies, with new patents in order to secure, this is going to be a huge business. Taking together with this one, just to finalize, is the GDPR, privacy. Everything is now privacy. If I drive an electric bikes, which somebody knows where I am, and tomorrow is going to sell this information, this is my privacy. I don't want anybody to know, maybe. So I won't call it a bubble. I say this is a great opportunity, cyber.
What is the percentage of companies that are invested right now in the cyber market that will fall within 2 to 5 years? Let's jump to conclusions. No?
I can tell you that I see at least 3 companies a week dealing with cyber. Each one is coming with another niche of dealing, and I see a new 6 unicorn. Do I have to add more?
Great. Thank you so much, everybody.